We are a group of artists and we're called Artist First.
We started working together in 1985.
It was hard work to get it started, but it was worth it.
I'm Hannah and I'm an artist. I'm Stacey and I'm an artist.
Before the 1980s, life was very different for people with learning difficulties.
Many of the artists from the beginning are gone now.
So other people are telling the story of how Artists First got started.
So back in the 1960s and 70s, people with learning disabilities often lived in very large institutions.
People who were disabled with learning difficulties had been hidden away in the long stay hospitals or in very few day centres scattered on the outskirts of the city.
People with learning disabilities looking back at institutions now will tell you about the abuse that they suffered, the rules that they had to follow, basically the congregate living that they were part of, and it was all run by other people, not by them. So it was really, really hard for anybody to have a voice and to feel that they actually were part of the human race.
In the 1980s, there was this big shift. We still had all the hospitals, the long-stay hospitals, but they were going through a period and process of change, so that care in the community was the big thing.
Care in the community was in the process of coming into being by closing some of the long stay hospitals where disabled people with learning difficulties lived out most of their lives.
After the big old hospitals, now people have moved into community homes.
And some of us went to day centres to do organised activities.
In a day centre, quite often the activities that you were doing were conceived of as therapy. So if you were doing art, for instance, it was art therapy. If you were doing music, it was music therapy. So although people enjoyed those things, and they learnt a lot, no doubt, but it's quite a different thing to be doing an activity because you want to, because it's a means of expression for yourself.
In 1985, the Portway Resource and Activity Centre opened in Shirehampton, Bristol. It was a joint funded venture between the Health Service and Social Services, and it was about care in the community.
But at the Portway Centre, things were different.
The people that worked there had very creative ideas.
This was something in the heart of a community, as opposed to the hospital up on the hill. It was something that had low numbers of people, so people weren't packed in like they were in the larger centres. And it also brought together a group of workers who had diverse backgrounds, who weren't all from nursing, who weren't all from social work, who weren't all from any one area.
Sarah McGreevy was one of the members, and her mum was Pam.
Pam visited one of the more traditional day centres.
I was quite surprised that they did virtually nothing. They stayed in the same room, they didn't move about. I thought it was awful. I didn't realise that. But once Portway Centre opened, it was completely different. They did so many activities there, they did things with the community, with the police, all sorts of things, and it was so refreshing, you know. And of course they started the drama, the art, yes, they had the poetry group, yeah, so it was so different.
That Sue Pratt, who was the manager, who just must have had a great vision, even if she didn't know where that was going to end up, of sitting down in the main hall and saying to people, what would you like to do? What would you like this centre to be? And It's that sort of environment that enabled the art group to start.
At the beginning, the person that really helped us was Jane Salis.
They were very institutionalised. I mean, I can illustrate perhaps using Carol, but Carol, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Carol, but when I first met Carol and we were painting and drawing and having a really exciting time, Carol always used to finish a session and screw up her painting and put it in the bin, because actually where she had been previously, it was just seen as an occupying activity, and her artwork wasn't respected or seen as having worth, and actually it was beautiful work.
For many of the people who would sit and wait for instruction, being given the ability to, no, go on, have a go. Doesn't matter, use that, doesn't matter, have a go. You know, that again is quite a radical thing to do. It's quite a radical step forward. But once you're given that as an individual, your confidence has got to build.
Jane believed in us and said what good artists we could be.
Jane encouraged us, our art got better, and we got more confidence.
And out of that grew Artists First, because of the arts were about expressing who you are and telling people who you are. And although we did lots of community projects that were about collaboration with the police, with the job centre, the library, local schools, primary and secondary, there was still that feeling of, but we'll now show you what we can do and come and see who we are. And the art was very specific to those projects of getting people to see who people with learning difficulties were who went to the centre, because they had been hidden away.
But we needed support to move on to the next stage.
Sarah's dad, Mike, was a professional artist and he helped us.
He supported Artists First by coming into the day centre on a regular basis, and he supported the art club that then developed into Artists First.
Mike McGreevy helped Artists First move on in huge ways in terms of the materials being more professional, work being framed, being exhibited.
He did say it would be better to use quality materials, because quality materials are good for quality work.
Yeah, Mike was very special to Artists First, and I think was instrumental in making Artists First what it is today. Kevin Hogan still quotes Mike, we've got to keep looking at things, and I think those sort of things are embedded in the group. They do not forget what sort of thing. There are so many colours in the sky. The sky isn't just blue, it's lots of colours. And Mike helped people look at things differently and encouraged, gave confidence to the artists as individual artists and the work they made.
We learnt a lot from Mike. We started to see that our work was good.
So we decided to get our own studio.
I think one of the major achievements for Artists First was moving into a studio at Spike Island.
And we were really lucky in the fact that we got to know Michelle Farmer, who was the then director of Spike Island. She actually encouraged us to develop and become a registered charity. And again, that was a milestone for us to actually constitute ourselves as a registered charity and start moving forward and looking for funding to develop the group.
That was an amazing achievement, because it actually meant we were no longer really part of social services.
That's a big milestone, a studio that was run by the artists, that was their studio, a place outside of the day centre.
That was way back in 2005. Since then, we had to move studios several times.
But we worked with many artists and had lots of exhibitions.
There's always been doors that are opening, but I think a lot of it has been because artists and workers have been kicking at those doors, and that's what's made Artists First. But actually, at the end of the day, I think the artists made things happen, and we were ambitious and very determined to make sure that people were respected as artists and the artwork was seen. Not trying to make it easy. It sounded easy. It was not easy, but it was. We were all very driven, and I think the artists were very ambitious for their work, and that's why Artists First is still here today and doing what it's doing, still very ambitious and making art together.